Collection.
Welcome to the August 21st Koopa Kast episode. I'm joined by a plethora. Is that 6 people?
Plethora?
7 people.
Plethora, yeah.
People. That's 6 people. It sounds like 6 people. Of gentlemen. And the question I'm going to start with is a question that's been bothering me for a very long time. And I know one person's answer. I want all of you guys' answers to this. What is the better comic book universe? Well, who has created the better comic book universe, DC or Marvel?
Oh, man.
Justin, because I know his answer.
Well, I guess I'm just a little biased to DC, but and I say that strictly because they have Batman. So Batman, I think trumps all. You can flame me later.
Matt?
Let's just go with Batman. Let's keep going.
Batman. All right. Jay Money?
I'm kind of biased. I've been a Marvel fanboy ever since I was a young boy, so I'm going to have to go with Marvel.
Alex?
I guess I would have to go with Marvel as well. I love me some Spider-Man. But it's like comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
If you want your gritty realism, you go with DC. But if you want your kind of fantasy, I guess, and lightheartedness a little bit, you go with Marvel. But
Gritty
I like
realism. Isn't DC the universe that rebooted itself 18 times?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
In that argument,
universe, and it all exploded, and there's 3 Supermans all of a sudden.
yeah. Well, that argument about more gritty for DC, I've almost heard that the opposite. That
really,
I feel the opposite.
Really?
Marvel's more realistic. There's more human. There's more emotion to the characters.
I would say that Marvel characters are more flawed. They have more human emotions, more. Whereas I feel like people don't like DC because of the it's just a bunch of cowboys, or they're just a bunch of Boy Scouts, and Superman's all good, whatever. He's got flaws, and Batman's kind of a standout. But,
color me schooled.
yeah. We have lots of comic debates.
Tristan, how about you?
I think you guys are just a bunch of nerds.
What are you even doing here?
I'm gonna go halvesies. I really can't.
Halvesies? What's that?
Yeah.
Topping out, that's what that means.
Yep.
I could have said halvesies. Come on now.
Well, you could have, but you didn't. Now, did you?
And I also changed my answer to halvesies.
Oh,
See, they can't commit. They can't
I'm
commit.
gonna have to go half. It's too hard to say. Although I will say Batman, I think, is my favorite hero. Although Deadpool is definitely a close second to my favorite hero. I just love how crazy he is and how much he breaks the fourth wall.
Who doesn't though?
Yeah, I know, right? His game wasn't too good, but.
I have to go with Marvel because I just love it's comparing the Justice League to the Avengers. I love the Avengers a lot more. I've been trying to watch a lot of Justice League movies recently, and it's Superman. I can't get past Superman. I don't know. I don't like Superman as a character. I'm just proud to say that. I think he's the worst.
Yeah, he's that annoying kid on the playground when you played that game that was like, well, I have the power that makes me do this. He was the kid that goes, I have the power that lets me do whatever I want. He was that kid that sat alone in the cafeteria. He's the kid that no one wanted to hang out with. You might have hung out with him because he had the coolest video games, but other than that, that was the only reason why you did.
His Ice Palace is pretty sweet though.
Superman did not have the coolest video games.
No, he didn't.
Other than Batman.
Who thinks that Rocksteady should try more DC games? The same guys who did Arkham City. I think they could try maybe. Then again, Superman's just OP'd. He's just too overpowered.
Exactly.
Hey, Justin, can we put a poll on PureNintendo.com to have Tristan retro review Superman 64?
Yes.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up. Oh, dear God.
Oh, that's okay. We don't need you. We'll ask the audience. We'll ask the readers. We'll put it on Facebook. Do you want
Tristan to review Superman 64?
You know what, readers?
Exactly.
Readers, if you're watching this, do it. Vote. I don't care.
You know what's going to be weird? Is that Tristan may actually like the game and give it like a 7 or 8. They're going to say, it was the greatest game I've ever played.
You know, guys, everyone does this
Honestly.
game. It has a good story. It's not that
If that happens, can we just have it
What it
really
was,
plastered
it
to his
was
profile in his magazine?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Combat is surprisingly deep.
I really feel the immersiveness of being Superman.
Yeah.
It's like
Well,
each of the
they have that
rings or
immersive
just another
fog.
story.
Oh, God. This is going to be awful.
We're already sidetracked.
Yes.
All right, so how many of you guys gave thought to the questions I sent out? If you didn't, we're in trouble.
Oh.
We'll make that double.
Ho ho.
Oh.
All right, first question for you guys. What makes a video game amazing? Like, what criteria does a game have to make it amazing? Is it graphics? Is it story? Are you weird and like sexuality in your games? I guess it's not weird. I don't want to say that. But
Can we still use the term halvesies?
no, no happy.
For me, it's not really any one thing. To me, it's like the game as a whole. If all the parts of it, the gameplay, the graphics, the story, if everything works together so well that I forget about my problems when I'm sitting on the couch and I'm fully involved with the world and the characters and I care about what's going on and I'm emotionally invested into it. To me, that's what makes a good game.
Well,
Is Animal Crossing a game to get emotionally invested in?
Yes.
yes. Graphics have never been really big to me in video games. It's all for me, like, if I'm having fun and, like Alex is saying, like, I'm in the game, then to me that makes a great game. What I really like about, what I particularly like to see in video games is a unique art style. I don't know, when something does something, like Okami, for instance. They kind of did something really crazy with the art style, and that made me want to buy the game. But that's just because I like to see, like, new twists on art style and stuff. Anyways.
Anyone else?
I'm gonna say graphics is probably my least thing I look forward to in terms of a game. Like there are games where I'm like, whoa, that's a really pretty looking game. Okay, that blew me away a bit. But I guess when it really boils down to it, it depends on what game you're playing. Like I'm gonna go and say this: when we play a Mario game, we're not necessarily playing it for its captivating story. We're playing it because of its fun, colorful world and just being in that Mario universe. It just makes us happy. Because, I love Mario, but every game's usually, Princess is in trouble, go find her, or something like that. But, although I was immersed when I had to use the Yoshi jump in Super Mario World, when you have to sacrifice them, that just immersed me right there. I just felt terrible.
Dude, I felt bad too.
Who doesn't, man? It's just, I always try to find a way around it. Maybe I don't need to sacrifice him.
He's like your best friend. You just leave him. I see you, pal.
Yeah, but I think it's in terms of it depends on the gameplay. Like a Zelda game, definitely the enticing story, the fun gameplay. Graphics are okay because again, graphics are probably the least thing I look forward to when I play like a game. That's just like a added bonus if I'm blown away by them.
What about music now?
Oh my God, music. I love old school chip tunes that properly accent a game. But what I love lately, and I think every video game should do this, orchestrated music. A completely done orchestrated track. I don't know about you guys, but do you have Super Mario Galaxy soundtrack? I went and downloaded those things because most of it is orchestrated.
And with video game music, that's kind of like a pleasant surprise because usually you don't know too much about music or whatever until you actually play the game. So when you play the game and you have all this wonderful music, it's kind of like, oh, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that way about Xenoblade Chronicles. The moment you start up Xenoblade, just you see the sword in the ground, and it starts playing this music. And what's cool is if you keep it on that screen, it shows like these clouds passing by, and eventually the sun sets, and like the sun lights up the clouds with all these different colors and stuff, and it's still playing this really nice music. I'm just like, this is amazing. I could just keep it right here.
Just fall asleep.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Alex. If it gets you immersed, it's about that experience, and like that had me. That's an example of a game immersing me from the very first 2 seconds I turn it on. So there's several examples of that.
It's funny though how. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think we already said this, but art style, that's another one that really immerses you.
Mhm.
Yoshi's Island is a pretty good example of that.
Yeah,
Which one?
Yoshi's Island.
Yoshi's Island.
Oh, Yoshi! I thought you said Zelda, but yeah, Yoshi's Island is just like when I did the retro review for that one. I just screamed and said how how adorable the game is. It looks like it was taken out of a children's coloring book. It's so freaking happy. I can't be mad. It's such a great time.
And that just helps so much out with the tone of that game too.
Oh yeah.
It's such like an easygoing platformer, like compared to other Mario games.
Yeah, although there are some levels in that game that's just.
I was say it gets pretty brutal towards the end.
Yeah, it does. It gets pretty. Yeah.
I think another thing that makes a game amazing is if it did what it set out to do. If that makes sense, like.
Right. Yeah, I know what you're saying now.
Like certain games, they set out to be the best open world game or the best at some specific aspect. So if they do that and do it well, and the gameplay, the graphics, everything just works. Like I've been playing Splinter Cell on the Wii U, and I'm not the biggest Splinter Cell fan. I've only played one of the other games in the series, but I feel like it does what it set out to do. You can play it action, you can play it completely stealth if you want, but it has its own niche, I think. There's not many games that can say that they're like Splinter Cell, or same with Zelda. Zelda's kind of its own genre, if you will. People always compare Darksiders. Oh, Darksiders very Zelda-like.
I hate it so much.
Well,
God, I hate that so much. I played Darksiders. No, it is nothing like it. End rant, because we'll be here all night if I go on that tangent.
seriously. Well, I would agree with you, and I think a perfect example of that is I'm going outside of Nintendo here, but Journey on the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect example of a whole bunch of elements working together to achieve that goal of really making you think and interpret the story, because the story is very minimalist. They leave it open to interpretation.
Mhm.
The graphics are absolutely gorgeous, and it just immerses you into this desert environment. And even the music, the way that they play beautiful music at certain points in the game, but most of the time there isn't a lot of music, and it makes you feel as if you're really going through that environment. There's so many little things that they did to that game in order to get the message across about the journey and to really make you think about it.
And I think that ties into our last discussion a few Koopa Casts ago, or was the last one when we said, are they an art form? I think stuff like that really ties into that discussion as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought up Journey, because for me, the story, a very nice in-depth story is what really draws me to video games. A good story can cover up a lot in movies, and the movie can be I don't want to say acted horribly, because that ruins a movie too. But special effects can be horrible, it can be cheap, but if it's a great story, I don't care. Same thing with books. A good example was Hunger Games. I enjoy the Hunger Games books. There's horrible love stories in there that kind of almost ruins the whole story, but it's very immersive of what's going on. The story's real well written, so that covers up the whole triangle crap. But I'm glad you brought Journey, because Journey is the total opposite. And I absolutely love Journey, and like you said, it has no story. Or very little story. You just walk.
Yes, it's very
basically.
open. You kind of.
And so that kind of turned my idea of what I thought was a fantastic game upside down. It's the first just simple game that I absolutely loved.
James, I'm sorry, but the only thing I thought of when you were talking about the Hunger Games, I feel the stupid love story. I feel like you're watching the movie going, yeah, children killing each other. This is fantastic. Okay, they're kind of in love. All right, that's till again. Yeah, kids killing each other again.
It was very emotional in the book, some of those scenes that left out of the movie.
Oh, really? At least the movie was like, okay, well, that happened. Back to reality. Side tangent.
I wonder how much it is to be said about games that came in at a certain time, perhaps. Like, they came in at the right time, and they'll open up the right window to catch, like, that mass audience. Or even personally, like, you happen to catch the game at the right time, so it's just kind of connected to you at a deeper level, whereas maybe it wouldn't a few years earlier, a few years later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Man,
so timing where you are can affect it.
I think Earthbound is probably the best example of that, except it came in at the wrong time, and because it sold horribly, but now everyone was clamoring for it to be on the virtual console, and they're saying, "Oh, this is a classic." I think that's a perfect example of it. It came at the wrong time, but it does all the right things. It's got an interesting backstory to it that you can get involved into if you do a little bit of research. It gets you emotionally involved, especially in the final boss, and it's also kind of creative how it was kind of like the RPG that kind of inserted you as the player. It kind of broke the fourth wall in a way. It kind of includes you as the player. Like almost a game that almost kind of like talks to you towards the end. I don't want to give away too much, but so I'm kind of beating around the bush. But it was just something that they hadn't seen, especially in an age where all the RPGs were kind of in a high fantasy medieval type setting or super futuristic. This was a modern day setting with baseball bats and yo-yos. So.
Well, that was back in the time when like Final Fantasy was like the king of RPGs, and
Yeah.
No doubt.
Super Mario RPG was my king of RPGs, but that's just me.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, there you go. Now, I do agree. Now, Alex, that's a really good point, actually. And, man, you love your Earthbound.
Yeah, I'm a diehard Mother fan, so
Oh, yeah.
take that with your salt, grain of salt.
Quick thing, I heard that a fan-made Mother 4 is actually going to be released soon, somewhere online.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to the game itself.
It really is, because
The fact that they're creating the next game.
Yeah, because the creator flat out said he's like making these games has been like so taxing that I can't do like another one.
Yeah, and
like, well, we'll make our own then.
And isn't it also, it's like it's taxing, but he also just doesn't want to give it away to another company.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's that's like even more of a double thing, but yeah, I think it's really cool that people are making that. I still need to get back on Earthbound sometime.
Yeah, you do.
All right, and we'll move on to our next question. Is there a point where video games go too far? Like, is there a boundary that video games cannot cross? Like back in the day when movies first came out, there was a boundary that movies didn't cross. There was no couples, married people staying in the same bed. They were separated at first. Is there a boundary for video games that they haven't crossed, so they're staying away from?
I think the Xbox One did that when I found out it could read where my blood's going.
I mean,
that was a boundary that should never be crossed.
That's really difficult, like a question though, because that's like a culture. Our boundaries are constantly changing and evolving.
But to you, what would be too far for a video game to go? Like, what would it have to do? Would it be like, well, it's a little bit too far?
Well, even though I played it and I do enjoy it, I think Postal 2 Share the Pain is probably the game that went too far.
What game?
With its over-the-top violence. It's called Postal 2 Share the Pain.
Oh, right. I remember that.
It was so incredibly violent that it was banned in a couple of countries and I think in a couple of U.S. states. Just the stuff that you can do is just completely over the top. You can go around with a shovel and knock people's heads off and kick them around like soccer balls, and just like to the point where it's really disturbing. I think that would be going a little too far.
Yeah.
Well, one place I think video games hasn't really gone, and when they do, they get a lot of backlash for it, is religion.
Oh, yeah, that's always a big one.
And that way, it doesn't really, video games don't get the same treatment, I don't think, as movies do, because religion kind of gets kicked around a lot in movies, but when it's brought up in a video game in a bad way, everybody's up in arms about it.
Or even if it's not intended to be in a bad way. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys remember Ocarina of Time, the original one for the N64, there was an Islamic chant in the Fire Temple, and the mirror shield, or I guess the Garuda symbol, was similar to that, I believe, of the Muslim faith. And apparently there was a huge uproar about that, but I think even what the chant was translated into, there was really no negative effect to it, or at least it didn't seem like it. I guess they didn't like their religion in a game, though.
But at the same time, you could look at a game like a lot of the Final Fantasies, actually, where a religion is, or like Final Fantasy X, I guess would be like one of the more recent examples, being 2000. But, well, where there's a vast church conspiracy.
Yeah.
Or, if you go back to Tactics, they just say the church, this monotheistic religion that's corrupted from the inside.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if that's okay because it's a quote-unquote made-up religion and not one that mirrors too closely a religion in real life.
Yeah, I guess. To me, that's kind of saying it without saying it. It's like almost like really hinting at something. But the safe ground is, they're saying, well, we're not saying it's exactly this, but we're not also saying it's not exactly that. If my whole sentence I just said that they're making sense, because I just realized after like halfway through it, I was like, it was confusing. But I could see that being like the safe ground there.
Well, there was you're gonna have to forgive me here because I don't have all the details because it was a little while ago. But there was a modern shooter, it was like Gears or something, I don't remember. That one scene took place inside of a really big church or something. That was it was modeled after a church in Britain or something like that. And whatever religion's church this was, they got really upset about it and said, you have to take that out of the game. And so I think they ended up taking it out of the game entirely. But I just think that video games hasn't gotten the same treatment as movies, and
literature.
That's a line that hasn't been crossed, I think, period, for video games.
Do you think that could be because video games are more interactive? Like, I was watching a Sessler soapbox recently, and he was totally off this topic, but at some points he said, because the question was, why hasn't there been like a story-driven Call of Duty, basically? Because it's just people go and shooting and stuff. He's like, well, there really can't, because we got to be careful, because there's real people, real soldiers out there that are dying. That's why all the Call of Duties are kind of a mix of sci-fi and real life, like especially this last Call of Duty Black Ops. I think there's a lot of sci-fi, but then there was real life stuff. There wasn't one where it's like, hey, we're going to the Middle East and you're doing this. That's your mission. It's all fantasy because it's a little bit too real for people to control a military person out in the Middle East somewhere compared to someone fighting North Koreans 100 years from now. That's
Cyber Koreans
100 years from now. And so that may be one reason that I guess you can say video games are tiptoeing around or other issues that some movies are hitting on the nail. Or
it's difficult because video games are the popular thing to demonize. So it's like, how do you tell a sensitive story like that without having people invoking that kind of backlash and rage? Because it's like, oh, we're training kids to be terrorists. But I wanted to bring up, wasn't one of the Call of Duty games where one of the very first missions or something was you had to your character didn't want to, but had to take part in like a terrorist act.
Oh yeah,
that was the Moscow
airplane.
To me, I think that was an example of pushing the envelope maybe a little bit too far, but in just the right way because they were very sensitive to it. If I recall, you could skip that mission if you did not want to.
Well, you didn't have to fire a bullet until the end, until you were attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Which it kind of just throws you in there, and you're kind of walking. It was an airport, and you're kind of like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then a lot of people probably got caught up and started just shooting like everyone else was shooting. But you can't walk through that whole level without, I guess you could say, killing civilians. So they did give you that option. But yeah, like it was like when I first started playing, I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? Like this isn't right. Like I shouldn't be doing this.
But like it worked effectively for the story because didn't you kind of empathize with your main character because you didn't want to do this once you realized what was going on?
Yeah.
And you felt extreme remorse for your actions. I mean, that's And well, I mean, if you're emotionally invested into that type of
Right,
gameplay,
I was
then
gonna say-
yeah, I think it's a very effective storytelling method.
Yeah, I can see that for the right people. I mean, call me cynical. It didn't bother me at all because I'm like, it's just a video game. It's not real or whatever like that. Like, I just feel like if a game is doing that, it has to make a level like that. I mean, right then at the beginning when it says you have the options, like this game contains extremely graphic content that you might find like disturbing. You can skip the level if you want to. That right there is nothing more than a prime example of back in the day when they started putting parental advisory warnings on music labels. The music industry skyrocketed in sales once those labels are on there because kids wanted to get those albums because they knew they weren't supposed to. So chances are, yes, someone is going to play those levels because they've been warned not to. So, I mean, like, to me right then, I think it's just more of a marketing thing to, you know, people are going to want to play it because it's pretty bad or something like that. But when I was playing it, it was just childish. It was like, really? This, I mean, okay, whatever, I guess. It was to me, it was a game that was trying to be too much like, oh man, people are going to go crazy on the internet when they see this.
Well, what about Spec Ops: The Line then?
I never played Spec Ops: The Line.
Yeah, that one. That
Yeah,
one.
that got a lot of
Which
attention.
one was that?
Yeah.
It was a military shooter taking place in the Middle East, and it was advertised as just, you know, like a Call of Duty first-person shooter kind of thing.
All right.
What it was like this really, like, you know, dark story about like this, like, what was he? I mean, he was a soldier, but he was a command of a small squad, but he also
Yeah, I haven't played through the whole
entire
thing.
time.
So, and I have been trying to avoid spoilers on it, but they said when you get to the end, it's a very people keep raving about the story, the plot of it, and when you get to the very end, you're like, oh snap! You know, it's a very and it seems that the way the story is going, it seems like you're basically the enemy.
Oh.
So you basically find out at the end, oh, I didn't have to kill those people, or I didn't have to do this, and then you're like, oh, I was the bad guy the whole time. And that's what it seems like anyway.
Huh.
But it's a very dark storyline, but the story progresses in a way where you really are kind of unaware. You're like, oh no, we're doing good stuff. We're doing good stuff. But it like just unfolds just enough to where you keep going and you keep doing the stuff you're doing, and then eventually, I'm assuming you find out that you're not so good.
What if Mario was like that? Like, what if Bowser was trying to save the princess, and you're just murdering all these Goombas and Koopas and all this stuff?
Yeah.
You
Well,
didn't have
that'll be Miyamoto's last game, right?
yeah, it's gonna be his last game. He's gonna realize that the entire thing was just a ploy. You're actually the worst person in the entire Mushroom Kingdom.
I mean, look at the instruction manual for the first one. Like, Bowser turned all the toads into bricks, and guess what you break?
Yep.
So Super
Bowser was
Mario.
good all along.
Yeah.
Super Mario is just an elaborate game series trying to preach about tolerance to interracial couples.
Interspecies.
I think it's on the back of the box.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I guess to wrap up like the question from what we've been saying so far, I guess a game goes too far when it does something over the top, but there's no point, rhyme, or reason to it. Like Postal 2 was. That's my example, because it went over the top with the violence just to see how far they could go with the intent on offending and upsetting people. Because really there was no other point to the game. Whereas it seems with all these other games that we've listed, there was at least a point or a set goal they had in mind, and that was why they pushed the envelope.
Yeah, and I think like with regards to Spec Ops, I think when you get to the end, you realize that it sucks, but you realize why it sucks. You know, like it's not just you're doing all this for no rhyme or reason. I think it did have an impact on people. Obviously, people are talking about that game left and right, but.
And we have to mention Grand Theft Auto in this, because how can you not mention the Grand Theft Auto series when pushing the envelope? Even though that game was, people were horrified. You can be a criminal, you can kill and do whatever you want. But at the same time, think of how revolutionary that game series was about expanding the open world sandbox type game. It had a goal, even though it was over the top.
Well, that was the whole point of the game too. The whole point of the game was to be this, drug dealer, and you go around boosting cars or whatever.
I was so shocked when I, months after playing, I remember Vice City was the first one I played. Months later, my friend of mine told me that there was actually a story mode to the game. I go, what? I thought you just run around and cause as much mayhem as possible. I didn't know there was a story.
And that's why the game got so much bad rep.
Yeah.
But you can tell when you play the games that, Rockstar, they're a very talented studio, and I'm excited for the newest one just because of, it seems like they're again pushing the envelope and doing something, that we really haven't seen too much of. So I can respect, the games that they've made, even if they are kind of crazy with the violence and the stealing.
Back when we were talking one thing about religion, I just realized one game I'm actually kind of surprised has not gotten that much heavy rep on that. When you really think about it, Castlevania. I guess in a way we
It's like throwing crosses and holy water and all that?
Yeah, exactly. Or in the instruction manual, boomerangs. That's what it's called. It's called boomerangs. The crosses are called boomerangs. But I mean, in a way, it's the battle between good versus evil, and the connection between Dracula and hell, and the Belmonts, I guess, heaven, or something like that. There is those connections in there, and I'm kind of surprised that they haven't tried to tone it down. But maybe they try to dance around it, or maybe they just kind of see it's not a big deal.
Yeah, there could have been a lot of, small tweaks in the earlier games that, we just don't know or remember or anything like that, got imported from, the Japanese version to the American version.
Yeah.
I think that's a little more accepted, though, because the idea of, religious symbols like the cross repelling vampires and stuff has been so ingrained into us in popular culture through books and movies that we kind of just accept it, so we don't really question it too much in that kind of universe or setting.
Fair enough.
Also, so you like to play Castlevania?
What?
Yeah.
Oh god, that's funny.
So this is leading to our next question: is why is the entertainment industry driven by, I guess is another word, violence or sex? But we're going to focus on violence.
Because maybe it's because people like to do those kind of things because they know in reality they couldn't do it and get away with it.
I just say take a look at a history book. We're a very violent species.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think in a way that by seeing it in movies or in books or in video games, it's a way to get out those frustrations without actually hurting people. Even in football, when you think about it, it's kind of like a violent, kind of tactical mini war game in a way. You're commanding your troops in the specialized formations and trying to drive the offensive to score.
Now, is this soccer or football?
We're talking about American football.
Dude, I don't know, man.
Soccer too.
I'd say soccer can be kind of brutal. That's actually a really good point. We are very a violent species, but I think if you're asking for too much violence in a game, you get to the point of just being childish.
Yeah.
Immature.
Like a game I want to bring up is Mad World.
Yeah.
I remember Justin and I we were at Comic-Con 2009, whatever it was, 8.
Yeah.
In New York, and we were doing our thing as we do. But anyways, we were playing Mad World, and we were kind of giddy and laughing, but then we realized this game is actually kind of horrible. This game's probably it was fun. We were having fun, but it was just you're sawing people in half. You're slamming them into dumpsters and then cutting them. It was just it was over the top. It was overly violent just to be overly violent to the point where it was. I felt uncomfortable, and I don't get uncomfortable on things very easily.
Yeah.
That's an example of a game. I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep hogging the.
That's all right. Go ahead.
That's an example of a game being made over the top and violent for the wrong reason.
But it was fun.
Just
That game was awesome.
But then they just do that just to say, hey, there's an M-rated game on the Wii, go buy it, because people were complaining.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I think it was mostly they wanted to be the mature game on the Wii, but I almost think that's almost It's almost an accepted way to do it because I thought the structure of the game show and the commentators, because they have the two commentators, and it's the voice of Bender and Greg Proops are the...
Oh, John DiMaggio?
John DiMaggio? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're really funny, and the game is really... I almost think of it kind of like Kill Bill. Like, if you look at Kill Bill, those movies versus other violent movies, like, think of other violent movies where people are getting dismembered or stuff like that, you're like, ooh, it's really unsettling, But in Kill Bill, it's like over the top. It's like, shots of, blood coming out, stuff like that, where it's like, oh, I know that's not realistic, like your mind tells you that anyway. You're like, oh, that's not a realistic reaction to, this getting cut off, blah blah blah. I don't know. So I felt like with Mad World, it was over the top, but it had such a over the top, funny. It was trying to be this. I don't know. So I almost don't put it in the same camp as like Postal 2 or Manhunt 2 or something.
Right. It's like that was how it was portrayed.
Yeah, just how it's portrayed. I felt like they went over the top just to be more comical. And I know it's bad saying that, like bad that cutting people in half and doing all this crazy stuff was funny or whatever, but it was just, I don't know, it's just the way they portrayed it, I guess.
That's one of those games I bought because of the art style.
Yeah, the art style is, red or black and white and red all over.
Yep.
Yeah. So, James, you said the game made you feel uncomfortable. Are we talking because of the blood and gore uncomfortable, or are we talking, spin the ball, Bumpy's party uncomfortable? Like, which one?
Over the top uncomfortable, like what you were doing. What made me feel spin the bottle and violent uncomfortable was, oh crap, it just slipped my mind. With Travis touchdown, No More Heroes.
Oh.
Yeah, because that was uncomfortable all over at times.
Mm-hmm.
But that once again, I absolutely love No More Heroes, both of them.
I actually didn't like No More Heroes all that much.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should just give it another chance, but when I initially played it, I was like,
Yeah, I felt the gameplay was a little floaty, just a little. It wasn't as refined as I had hoped.
It's very character driven. You got to really play it because you enjoy the character.
Yeah, it seems like that.
You enjoy killing people.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Team Cantata.
Yeah.
And playing those little 8-bit mini games for no reason.
Yeah.
like Alex was saying, getting back kind of to the question, the human species is very violent just in general, and that's just not recent in like movies or music or video games. This has gone back hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years possibly, to like gladiators and all that when people fought or whatever for people's entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how shocked
like
were you guys when you got older and you found out how Thanksgiving really went down? Mind blown.
Yeah, but, I mean, I feel like you also got to think about just like how it was presented, like because when we started seeing previews of The Last of Us, a lot of people were really looking at that closely and how violent that was.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, probably in The Last of Us, a lot less people got murdered than say in the Battlefield 4 trailer that we watched in this past E3. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever talked about that thing over the top. But if you look at like how personal the violence was in The Last of Us, that was what kind of got to people. So I feel like if you had a bunch of games that kind of like had those personal deaths to them, then I think people would react more strongly to these incredibly violent games. But if you look at like, if you shoot somebody in like Call of Duty or Battlefield, you shoot them. You're not really thinking about it for more than a few seconds. You just kind of move on, throw knives all the way across the field and, not someone else in the back,
Yeah, that makes more sense. Because playing The Last of Us, yeah, there are a lot, like the kills in that one seem a bit more, this is an obstacle that's in my way, rather than, Battlefield, you're like, okay, well, this guy's points to me, or something like that. But here's one thing: has playing violent games like that ever made you want to go do something like that in reality?
Not a chance.
Yeah, see,
What?
I mean, I wanted to hijack a banshee in the middle of the air. I mean, that'd be really fun.
who doesn't want to do that? You find me a banshee, I'm gonna hijack that thing.
But
Yeah,
here's
I
another
can't say.
question.
I'll go for it.
I was saying, here's another question though: is why? Because Nintendo takes the stand of not being super violent. Why is that a bad thing? Why is the industry looking down as Nintendo as being childish? Because they don't have these games where you rip people's heads off or pull their hearts out or torture them.
Because you don't need that to have a good game. That's why.
Exactly, but why does
I think
everyone,
Nintendo
not
has
everyone, but a lot of the industry say, oh, Nintendo's just childish because Mario's killing Koopas, but just they're not, you don't see the brains coming out of their head or whatever they have inside of them, the jellyfish, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
I
Bloopers?
mean, not every game needs to be violent. Not every movie needs to be violent. You know, not every television show, not every book,
Yeah.
not every radio play. They all don't have to be violent.
It
So
is.
I don't really understand the position of Nintendo doesn't make a lot of violent games, therefore they're childish. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I think in terms of a good example of a way Nintendo can still have a dark game, but avoid blood and gore and all that stuff. Look at Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
That game is extraordinarily dark and extraordinarily compelling,
Mm-hmm.
but there's hardly any if at all blood and gore in it. It's just a story-based driven game, and I think this thing, if a game has a fantastic story, it can be just as dark as any other thing. It doesn't need that extra spice of dismembering someone or something like that in order to get there. And I think Nintendo realizes that.
But why do they have the stigma though? Why are they considered childish?
Because they go against the grain. That's common nowadays, and I think, especially since it seems like a lot of younger kids, not to sound like an old man, like to play the more violent stuff, and maybe equate the violence to a more mature game, and so they look like, oh, I don't have any violence or anything. That's for babies, And these game companies pick up on that because they want to sell their games to those demographics. They're like, oh yeah, Nintendo's for babies. Here, play this real game with violence and gore that we made.
Yeah. Again, I feel like if you need that in a game, like an over excessive amount of it, it's just childish. Then you're the immature one right there. If you just can't handle it like that, or if that's how you perceive it, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. I think it's almost like you said, it's kind of an immature thing too, just kind of an immature response. But I think most industry or most humans, were like anyone who looks down on us, and not that Nintendo's looking down on everybody else, but I think that could be some of the perception. If Nintendo doesn't make these violent games, then the other people could have that perception. Oh, we're doing something bad. Is that why you're not making these violent games? Is that bad? Blah blah blah. It's almost like we hate when people judge us, for doing something. And so I feel like Nintendo not having these violent games, everybody else feels indirectly judged by them. Like, does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
So I feel like they feel like they have to lash out a little bit. Like, oh yeah, Nintendo's for babies. Yeah, that's the reason why.
Then they obviously didn't look at the final blow in Wind Waker. I just thought about that one.
Yeah.
Think about that final blow. Oh my god.
Right through his brain.
Yeah, jeez. Or even
Ocarina when Ganondorf threw up red blood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or stabbed in the face. Oh my god.
He got stabbed in the face in that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be great if in the next Zelda game, Ganondorf has this big metal plate on his head, and you're not gonna give me this time?
Well, Twilight, he had a big gash on his chest.
Yeah. That one kind of was like sword goes here, kind of that was more of a.
Yeah, he got stabbed.
No. That was actually really well thought out. Because if you remember, the reason why he has that gash is because the Guardians stabbed him with a sword in the stomach before sending him to the Twilight Realm. That's why he has the gash in the stomach. It was actually thought out. And the same deal for why Demise had the scar on his forehead. It's because he had that big spike when he was in the monster form driven into his forehead. So, details.
We're getting off topic.
Didn't I?
Actually, we kind of are. I mean, our point is that I think Nintendo has its way of being gory, but again, they don't need it. They know they don't need it, and I'm glad they know they don't need it.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of agree with Alex in that the stigma, I think, has kind of been almost created by the industry, and that Nintendo doesn't make these violent games, but a lot of other companies do, and market them to younger gamers, and then all the younger gamers say like, "Oh, this is what video games are supposed to be."
Yeah.
So then when they see a Nintendo game, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's for kids."
Mhm.
Did
And that's
anyone
why
play
I go to
the?
lost levels and say, all right, beat this. I'll be back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did
God.
anyone play the original Skylanders?
No.
Like, it was actually a really good game. Like, it had a really good story. It was fun to play. It was entertaining. It was marketed to children with the toys, and so that kind of, I guess you can say, was pushed aside with all the other games. But Skylanders is actually a very solid game if you're looking for a good story, because it was written by one of the writers of Toy Story. So it had that. So it had that
Buzz
humor of Toy Story, huh?
Was he the writer of Toy Story? Was it Buzz Lightyear?
Buzz Lightyear, yes. Buzz Lightyear.
I knew it.
So, like, you can actually tell, like, this has, like, a Pixar type, even though it wasn't a Pixar game. Like, it has that feel to it with the humor and the communication between the Skylanders. So it was actually a good game. It's just it was marketed to children, and you aren't ripping people's heads off or having animal intercourse. It was kind of just pushed aside.
I think that's just the biggest thing that we as an industry need to get over in order to be perceived in a better light. You know, is we got to stop saying like, oh, it doesn't have violence, if it doesn't have, sex or anything over the top and crazy, then it's a bad game or it's childish. We should embrace all of it. Because if we just say the violent side, then that's why everyone thinks that we're the ones going out there and shooting up schools and stuff like that. And it's just, we need to grow up as an industry, basically.
Yeah.
And as a human race.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. I miss back in the day when, like, the most extreme thing was a fart joke. We need more of those. We need another Ren and Stimpy.
Oh, yes.
Alright, well, I guess to close out this Koopa Kast, we're asked the question, what game you guys have been playing the last 2 weeks? And we'll start with Tristan.
I have been replaying my favorite Super Nintendo game, probably my favorite game of all time, Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. And loving every minute of it.
Matthew?
Combination Ace Attorney, Minecraft, and that Pony Studios game, all of a sudden now lost in my head.
Cloudberry.
Cloudberry King.
Cloudberry Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
The name is gone because it got replaced with the exact pattern I need to get past level 257 or whatever.
You're only there?
Where are you at?
I beat the game already, dude.
Did you have to? Oh, okay. Whatever. I hear that.
I'm sorry.
I was too busy getting my master's degree.
Someone wanted to get smurder.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mac. Is level 200 something too hard for you? Can I do it? Is it a problem?
You know what? You can talk all you want. I'm just gonna grab my 2 professional style cameras, gain more experience here, and come back. And I'll have these 2 cameras right here and create all these videos. And make sure the first video on there is you playing Superman 64. And we're not gonna stop until you get past all those rings.
Oh, yeah.
God, well played. I'm not looking forward to that. Oh, if it gets voted, that's the thing. It has to be voted.
Oh, it will get voted.
I'm voting every day.
Yeah, see here. I will create new accounts on Facebook just to vote some more.
That's
Yes.
just cheating.
All's fair in Love and Superman.
There's nothing fair about Superman.
Can that be the episode name, by the way? All's fair in Love and Superman.
Yes.
New t-shirt idea, guys.
There you go.
Justin, what you been playing?
Oh, some Mario and Luigi Dream Team. And Splinter Cell, just as of last night, Splinter Cell Blacklist on the Wii U. And what else? Oh, I did play some Nintendo Land recently. That was pretty fun. Actually, I played the Zelda Battle Quest for about 5 hours Saturday night. So.
Whoa!
It's pretty awesome.
Nintendo Land is a great game. It's fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
J Money?
Most recently, Tangram style on the 3DS, Cloudberry Kingdom. I played some Pictionary on the Wii, and kind of like had this revelation while playing it, like this would be awesome with the gamepad.
Then J Money drops his Wiimote in shock. And goes to sit and
Well,
contemplate.
it came with that like UDraw tablet, and then I'm like sitting here using the UDraw tablet, and I'm like, wait a second. Anyways,
They have Pictionary in the Game & Wario, I think, don't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it's like one of the mini games.
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think I've been playing anything else much recently. I think that's it.
I've been playing some Pikmin 3. I still gotta rescue the captain.
Yeah, I
The third
forgot about
captain.
that. I've been playing that too. Yeah.
You gotta rescue
So-
a captain?
Yeah.
Spoilers!
There are 3 members of your crew. One of them is a captain.
Spoilers!
As soon as you boot up the game, that's like the mission. It doesn't count as a spoiler. That, and I've been staring at Ocarina of Time 3D, and I'm thinking it's about time I start a new Master Quest game and see if I can go through it with only 3 hearts and no deaths. Because I did that on the GameCube one, so I think I need to retry that challenge.
Yes. Yes.
And Animal Crossing. Go and say Animal Crossing. I know you've been playing that.
Oh yeah, Animal Crossing every day, every day. Gotta get those fossils, man.
Speaking of games that make you feel bad, apparently not selling the fossils to the museum is a terrible feeling.
It is a terrible feeling. You're depriving all of your animal residents of like
I don't feel
awesome
bad at
dinosaur.
all.
Yeah, but don't you get a lot of money for that though? If you just go and sell them on the black market, I guess if that's what it is. The black market of fossils.
My question is, like, what do they do with it? Like, where do the fossils go?
I know.
Well, when a
Well,
mommy
that's
fossil-
what I always wondered about the fish and the bugs that you sell. It's like Tom Nook. Especially, I started thinking about like, what if you like catch a whole bunch of like fish in the middle of the night, and then they're sitting in your pockets for like 24 hours. You go to the store and you see all these nasty fish. The Tom Nook. It's like, what does he do with them? I like that he just like eats them all like when you leave.
Yeah, he
That's all I
converts them to energy.
Exactly.
Or he's making a fish-powered, bug-powered robot. That's gonna take.
But seriously, somebody should make like an online comic of that. Just like
Yeah,
the
what
Animal
is?
Crossing villager handling like dead bugs and like fish with little flies around him to like Tom Nook to sell out of his pockets. That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
What about you, James? What have you been playing?
Only one game. Cloudberry Kingdom. That's about all I've been playing this week.
That's all he needs.
That's all we need.
Dude, when you really think about it, that's all you could need.
It's a pretty addictive game.
Yes, it is.
It's a game that my wife likes, so it's something we can do together. Because we both suck. So
My wife refuses to play. I'm like,
is.
come on!
How far are you in that game?
I don't want to talk about
Go for it. We can mute Tristan.
it. I'm not very far.
Oh, guys, I don't get to brag about a lot of things in my life. I might as well take something.
Yeah, it's true. He is pretty dismal at Mario Kart. So.
Yeah. Oh no! No! And on that note, viewers.
Yeah, and with that note, goodbye.
This is a good tradition right here. It's just every day we gotta check a full list of things we gotta do. Make fun of Tristan for Mario Kart. Check that one right off the list.
Yeah, take that.
You should have automated tweets every day that go off at a certain time.
That'd be amazing.
And weekly posts, we can go ahead and schedule them now every Wednesday at 8 o'clock that go up right after the Koopa Cast. Tristan sucks at Mario Kart.
Oh, come on, at least be more creative than that. Like, you have to have like a whole life. Man, life is good, especially if you're not Tristan who sucks at Mario Kart.
You could do a tweet like, "Oh, I just got hit with a red shell by Tristan." I couldn't do it with a straight face now.
That should be something we put on Facebook. Have all the fans come up with the most creative ways to say Tristan sucks at Mario Kart, and then put it in the magazine.
There you go.
I'll put that in the reviews, but not in the same place every time, so you have to read the whole review to find it.
Oh, there you go.
This is
Tristan-
truly immersive experience. I couldn't believe the RPG elements that were recorded, acquired in this game. Tristan sucks at Mario Kart.
Yeah. Tristan, we love you.
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh
Like a
no!
5-minute long like rag on Tristan.
Why
Not
does
Tristan.
everyone steal my thunder? Why can't I have thunder for a little bit? Tristan used thunder. Oh wait, everyone stole it. It's not really effective.
Hey,
Yeah.
Tristan's a
I
ground
used the
type.
boo to take your thunder, and then I used it to send you into a pool of water.
Yeah.
This sucks. I hate you guys. You guys are stupid.
Well, thank you for joining us in this episode.
No, don't
Yeah.
thank you for joining us. I don't know why you came in the first place.